Hello there. Welcome to this episode of Just the Dis. My name is Brian, and we talk about Blu-rays here. And I'm going to try some new stuff with the channel. I'm just noticing that, and a lot of other YouTubers can attest to this, that, one video a week is just not what YouTube wants. And that's been, primarily what I've been shooting for, one half an hour full episode per week. And I've decided I'm going to try and break those down a little bit into shorter segments. And I know that may mean less views for some of these because I know you guys understandably prefer haul videos. But I just really do want to grow the channel a little bit. And one of the ways to do that is to produce, at least 3 videos a week. And, I've also noticed that a lot of people don't watch the full 30 minutes. It's just, so I'm not serving the audience that well. And that's not my primary goal here. My primary goal is just to talk about movies that I like, and I'm going to continue to do that. And I'm going to continue to do haul videos, but I want to throw in some shorter stuff for you guys just to kind of see what kind of response I get. And so today, for this episode, I am talking about a couple 4Ks from Kino Lorber. These have come out recently. One of them was a huge, movie that I was anticipating getting on 4K and was so excited to get. It's one of my favorite films of all time, and that is Billy Wilder's The Apartment. And this film has been a big part of my life for many years now. I had a good friend who had a tradition of watching a movie at 12:01 a.m. on New Year's Eve. I've told this story before, but so that was the first movie that he watched every given year. His particular movie was Big Trouble in Little China, which I tried for several years, and that's actually a great movie to watch as your New Year's Eve first movie of the year. I highly recommend that experience. But in later years, when I could still stay up after midnight to watch a movie, I started doing The Apartment. The Apartment became my after midnight first movie of the year movie because, it's a New Year's Eve movie. The climax of the film sort of takes place on New Year's Eve. And so it kind of fit in that way. And as I said, it's one of my favorites. And so it gave me a great feeling going into any new year watching this film. And for those who don't know, it is a dark, satirical look at corporate America. It is all about a gentleman who works at a large company, and he is part of he's a cog in the machine, if you will. His name's C.C. Baxter. He's played by, of course, the great Jack Lemmon in one of his most outstanding performances, most sympathetic and yet still up with a darker edge kind of performances. And so he has found himself in a weird situation where the upper executives started to use his apartment first to just change for a banquet, or at least that's what he thought. And now it's become a full-on love nest for extramarital affairs for these executives. And each one of them, as he offers the apartment to them for their activities, promises him some kind of promotion, et cetera, et cetera. And he starts to find himself in a position of working his way up, while at the same time sort of having this friendly relationship that, he would, of course, love to be more with one of the elevator operators, Miss Kubelik, played by Shirley MacLaine. And then things get complicated. And if you haven't seen the movie, I don't want to explain it too much further than that because there's a lot of ins and outs, a lot of what have yous to it that I think are really cool to watch, including a pivotal scene with a compact hand mirror that is one of my favorite scenes in movies, period. And it's just always impacted me. The performances in that scene, the tonal shift in that scene, it's really powerful stuff. But it is darkly funny. There's a running gag that the neighbors of the Jack Lemmon character, a doctor and his wife, think that he is some kind of incredible sex pot, this guy who's constantly bringing women home when in fact it's a bunch of different guys. They don't understand what's happening, so they have a certain idea of him, and he couldn't be more the opposite. He's a very meek guy, comes home, puts on a TV dinner, watches a movie. But yeah, it's a really wonderful love story, and a movie that I know a lot of people love. I've bought it in multiple editions. I've bought VHS tapes, DVDs. I've bought the Arrow set. I've bought another regular Blu-ray. I think I probably bought this movie 4 or 5 times. But I'm not saying I'm going to get rid of the Arrow version in particular. I think I'm going to hang on to, but this is a really nice version of the film presented in 4K from Kino. It has got a slipcase, no reversible artwork, if I recall. Yeah. But it looks great. There is an incredible amount of detail in the, black and white CinemaScope image that we get to see, and I was more than happy with how it looks in terms of the detail that is brought to a film that I've seen countless times and now can get a little more out of just based on that detail. It looks very good. So from that point of view, it was great. On top of which, this one also has a little inside the apartment documentary, which is cool. Magic Time, The Art of Jack Lemmon featurette, also cool. And then 2 audio commentaries. I want to say they're both new, but don't quote me on that because they could exist in other forms and other discs. But I enjoyed and got things out of both. The audio commentary by film historian Joseph McBride, author of Billy Wilder, Dancing on the Edge, and the audio commentary by film historian Bruce Block. They both have slightly different approaches, but there's a lot of thematic examination. There's a lot of deeper story examination happening and connections being made between things that happen at the beginning of the film, things that foreshadow things that happen later in the film, a lot of which I realized, but some of which, didn't always occur to me. So there's some neat connections I was able to make and some nice, little bits that I learned throughout watching and listening to those commentaries. So a really solid release from Kino, and I do recommend it if you're a fan. And then a new to me watch, also on 4K from Kino, and that is Eastern Promises, David Cronenberg's film with Viggo Mortensen, Naomi Watts, and Vincent Cassel, and Jerzy Skolimowski, who I didn't realize who he was at the time in the movie, but he plays an interesting supporting role, and he's a director that I like very much, so it was kind of neat to see him not just be a background player. He actually has kind of a role that's important in the movie. But this is a really interesting, dark drama. It's set in London, for those that haven't seen the film, and it sort of centers around 2 things. One, a woman played by Naomi Watts who works at a hospital, and then some sort of Russian mob folks. They have a specific name for their organization. I'm going to forget what that is, that they're a part of. It's kind of like being made in the Russian mob, if you will. And so there's these 2 factions. And the way they come together is that at the beginning of the film, a young girl who we come to find out is a prostitute goes into a pharmacy, asks for some help, and collapses on the floor and is hemorrhaging. Is clearly pregnant. I'm going to spoil just a little bit. She dies in childbirth, and the baby is left at the hospital. And Naomi Watts' character is left to try and sort through the pieces of this woman's identity. She doesn't really have a lot on her. She has a diary, and inside the diary is a business card for a restaurant. And so she has only that to go on. And she really doesn't want this child to end up in the foster system because she believes that the kid will get lost in the foster system and will just never find their way out. So she would really like to find some family that can come and take care of this child. and the diary that she's got is all in Russian. And so she initially calls upon her uncle, played by Jerzy Skolimowski, filmmaker of Deep End and Moonlighting and, some really interesting films, who claims to be, something of an ex-KGB guy. And he begins to read the diary and translate it. And immediately he's like, you want nothing to do with this? And, his advice is probably sage, but she's just really driven to find some help for this child. So she ends up going to the restaurant, which is owned by a character played by Armin Mueller-Stahl. And, we come to find out he is sort of part of this Russian mob thing. And Viggo Mortensen is the driver to his son, who's played by Vincent Cassel, who's kind of not the best guy, particularly. And the Vincent Cassel character and the Viggo character are very close, and there are some things that transpire, some decisions that are made by the Cassel character that are not necessarily the best decisions, and some of the other characters have to help deal with the ramifications of those decisions. And the Viggo character ends up kind of becoming not involved with the Naomi Watts character, but they become friendly. They interact with each other, and the story progresses from that point. And again, another movie I don't really want to talk too much about in terms of plot, because I really feel like it was a nice surprise for me. It's a movie I should have seen years ago. I'm a huge fan of Cronenberg, but for whatever reason, I hadn't seen it. This 4K looks good. It's a different kind of movie in terms of the color palette is a bit drab. It's overcast London is really the setting. There isn't a lot of sunshine in the film, but the detail is good. I thought the transfer looked good, and I enjoyed the movie. So it has some features on it, which are also, solid. I always want a Cronenberg commentary, but this doesn't give you that. But it has a interview with screenwriter Stephen Knight, who wrote the script and has a good deal to say about the Russian mob and some real life things that tie into the film, and that's fascinating stuff. Ultimately, Secrets and Stories featurette with David Cronenberg, also interesting, dealing with the story. He talks about the actors and their particular strengths, and the actors, I want to say they're in that featurette. Mark for Life featurette with Cronenberg. I love multiple interviews with Cronenberg, always great. And then Two Guys Walk Into a Bathhouse featurette with Cronenberg. I think that, if I recall, it's focusing on a particular scene in the film that I won't talk about. And then Watts on Wheels is an interview with actress Naomi Watts, talking about her involvement in the film, her character, etc. But another one with a slipcase, and I don't think they're doing no reversible artwork, which is fine. But it was nice to have waited and gotten to see Eastern Promises for the first time on 4K. So two very different films in 4K from Kino, and I enjoyed the experience of both of them, and I recommend both of them, The Apartment and Eastern Promises. So that's going to do it for this shorter episode. Let me know in the comments below if you've seen either of these, if you enjoy these. But like I said, I recommend both. And thank you so much for watching, or thank you for listening. I'll talk to you soon. Bye-bye.